So here is part of the Coricancha that is actually in a hotel, or I should say, this is like
Wow.
right outside of the Coricancha. But it's just part of a hotel, and those granite blocks, you can see that one of them right above the concierge has two little nubs on it, and a bunch of these blocks have nubs on them. And I mean, it's been said into oblivion, but you cannot fit a hair between these stones. It just the stonework is absolutely perfect. And one of the things that I thought was so cool about Cusco, and you guys should spend an evening doing this, just walk around the city and pop your head into all of the buildings that have, a wooden facade on the outside. Just pop your head on the inside and look at the interior of the wall, and the ancient city is there.
Painters. The paint.
Yeah. They painted the stone. Can you believe that?
All right, we got to bring them some
But
masking
look,
tape.
like these are small blocks, but look, they still have nubs.
Yep.
Right? It's interesting.
Yeah, it's really strange.
They're totally for lifting, bro.
It is so
But I mean,
weird.
you can just pick that block up. So what do you need nubs for?
Yeah. I mean, you so many of these blocks, one or two guys could pick them up. So what was really interesting was I did a deep dive. I walked throughout the entire city of Cusco over the course of about 11 hours in total, and Dr. Barnhart and I were actually going to do a project. I'm going to go back to Cusco for probably a month or so, and I'm going to walk every single street and every alleyway and walk in every building, and I'm going to map every single ancient wall in the entire city. That doesn't exist. And so in sort of prepping for that while I was there, I really got a good look at how the walls are made, and or not how they're made, but what the stones look like today, because you can, in so many places you can't actually see inside the wall and see, okay, are they just perfect on the exterior and then they're jagged on the inside? How does that work? And so there were probably a dozen places throughout the city where I was able to get different glimpses of how the stones were cut. I was able to see a corner that had fallen down, and so there's some exposed rock on the right side, and maybe the top wouldn't be exposed, but I could go to some other place on the other side of the city. I mean, this is a big city. This takes me like an hour to walk from one side to the other, and the entire city is built with these, this just monumental stonework. And so, I would walk from one side of the city to the other and put little clues together as to, what this stonework looked like. And this is actually if you click right there on
you
the...
got a mouse
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry.
Got you a mouse.
Okay, so...
Is it upside down? It's good. Okay.
So here's another example. So throughout the city of Cusco, there is very rarely that is, I say, monumental stonework that is different than what you're looking at right now. This is imperial style. So it's not uniform, but, rectangular stone blocks that are perfectly cut on at least 4 sides of the exterior facing. And they're cut perfectly to fit with all the blocks around them. And so the vast majority of the city is built with stone like this. The only other times on the Temple of the Moon, you will see polygonal cyclopean granite blocks that we'll see here in a minute. And then
this is you could do a side-by-side comparison with this in the Osirian. It just looks exactly the same. That's why I was asking you what kind of stone this is.
This is granite. Yeah.
Okay.
This is
because I thought that
the
walls of the Osirian were granite as well, but they're quartzite.
Yeah.
And that's what
really?
It looks just
but the
like
pillars
this.
and
the pillars are granite.
Are granite, yeah.
But the walls of the interior, they're not exterior walls technically, but they look the same.
As far as I'm aware, and the archaeologists that I was with there, the people actually work for the Ministry of Culture in Cusco, they say it's gray granite. And so the vast majority of the city, it's this huge city, and every single building in Cusco has this imperial architecture in it. Like just the sheer quantity of it was mind blowing. But I'll say most of it is this imperial style. There's a couple places, maybe just the Temple of the Moon, where you see the large cyclopean stuff. I can exit.
So,
I'm sorry.
Jonathan Frost is asking if these are unfinished. And I'm curious about that too. Are there any faces where it's been flattened?
At Machu Picchu, there's some flat ones. They've been flattened, but I don't know about in Cusco.
Yeah. In Cusco, it is always pillowed like this.
So it may be technically finished, like this is complete and this is how they intended it, but they also have examples of like a finish work that flattens it.
Like
but you can see where they worked in all the joins. You know, they worked that stone right to the join there.
Yeah.
There's like, there's just a definite.
Another good question from Earth Tribe is what's on the other side of the walls? Like when you're looking at a wall like this, how do you find out? Can you go find the other side?
Okay, so that's kind of what I was getting to. So I walked all around the city and documented some examples of where I could see the other sides of the blocks. And so what I noticed was that it was really tough to get photos that adequately. I'm going to make a diagram at some point. But what I ended up finding out was that the blocks are not cut square. They're they're basically slanted. So you have the exterior face, but the exterior face is actually slanted inwards, maybe 15 degrees. And then everything else is cut flat. So the block is like tilted like this. Mm-hmm. And then the left and right sides are also tapered in on the inside. And so when you stack these blocks up, the wall leans in like this, and there's a little bit of tapered space between every single block on the left and right side. Does that make sense? So there's a little triangular gap between them, and they would take this llama fat and this red clay glue, and they would stuff it in. They would stuff it in that triangular space. And so Dr. Barnhart and I were just theorizing because there's not a lot of studies on why exactly is that, and he thinks that it was like cartilage, kind of like it
can move. Yeah.
It could move, like it could cause the wall to almost
flex.
breathe during an earthquake. And he also thought that, well, if all the blocks, so they're only touching on the exterior, but they're also cut perfectly flat on the insides. And he thought that if an earthquake was massive enough, which there was one that somehow they're able to calculate that it was like a magnitude 8 or 9 earthquake in 1650, and that there was another one of the same magnitude in 1950, and it just knocked down the whole Spanish city, but everything was still sitting there. All the Inca stuff was still sitting there
stuff
perfectly.
is still there, yeah.
And so what he thinks is that if all the blocks were touching and a shock wave went through the building, it could shatter and crumble some of those blocks.
Yeah.
But that fat and that red clay glue between the blocks allowed them to breathe and move.
Who was doing this type of construction?
Well, I mean, they say that.
So you're telling me that this wall is that type of construction?
Yes, that wall. Yeah.
So on the back side of it, it's all gaps between the blocks.
There are triangular gaps filled with red clay, mud, llama fat that acts as a glue between the blocks.
How deep do those cracks go?
They're probably each block is about a foot, I would say.
The crack goes in that far.
Yeah. It starts from the very outer edge all the way to the back. They're about a foot.
Turn your passion for pet portraits into profit. Start selling your digital creations on Shopify.
Deep.
Wow.
And some blocks are bigger than others, and that isn't always true for. Can I pull up another example?
So you go down through the right corner to get down here. Yeah, you're down there now.
Oh, okay. I see. I see myself. Oops. Do I just click here?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to go back?
Yeah. I have another example of some of the stone stuff. Okay, so here we go. So here's that polygonal. There may have been a photo that didn't go through.
The fat gap.
Oh.
Yeah. There may have been a photo that didn't go through. Here's an example at Machu Picchu. So this is at the Temple of the Sun, is what they call it. And you can see that this is imperial style, but this is much more monumental than what you see at Cusco. And so those blocks that are kind of falling apart, that's definitely from an earthquake, but it's showing you just how well built these are. These blocks also taper in.
So you're telling me that these mating faces don't touch all the way back?
No, they don't.
So?
Not, at least not on every example, and not on most of the examples that I saw. There was some intentionally like a triangular space between the blocks where something could be put between them.
I'm gonna have to check your observations when I go there.
Sure,
bro.
sure.
I don't know.
I was gonna say I don't see any fat in there, bro.
Well, yeah. I mean, it doesn't. On most
it
of
wouldn't
them,
last. Yeah.
Yeah, on most of them it doesn't exist, but you can put your fingers sometimes between the blocks and you pull your finger out and there's oil on your finger. And
But look at those megaliths at the bottom. This is the thing, this question about is that from older stuff?
Well, and if you look at
because it doesn't even look the same. It doesn't look like it belongs.
But it
with
looks
that
like
wall.
it looks like it was worked with the same type of tool.
It does.
You guys see the nubs on the bottom there? Now
I don't see any nubs.
Now to give you guys an idea of just how big that is, because they have it roped off. You can't actually walk straight up to that and crouch in front of it.
Of course.
That
you might damage it.
That block right there. I fail to say how big it is.
Yeah.
It's just like
it's massive.
The best way I can say it is I saw it and easily knew that the only thing that I know of that can be bigger than that is the pillars at the Osirion.
Yeah.
That's how big that thing is. It's got to be more than 10 feet long. And then it's probably 4 feet tall or so.
So those 4 blocks on the top of it are like what, 4 feet? Like those.
Yeah. So I would say the block has got to be longer than, it's got to be about 10 feet long.
Yeah. Least. So what I'm saying, so like give us an idea of the size of those 4 sitting on top of it.
Okay, those 4.
Yeah.
They're probably each of them are about this big, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's probably, if that's going to be 12 feet long.
12 feet.
Sure. And just so impressive. Go to the photo in front of it or behind it. There's actually larger stones. There you go. Okay, look really closely. The entire bottom half of that wall is one stone. And this is granite. This is all white granite.
And look at this side cut. It's got the curve in. Like it looks like there was a block that fit there, or at least it intended to be more wall, right? And it's got the twist. It isn't a straight flat side. It's got this
it's not tapering down, right? It's twisting away.
Yeah, it looks like it's twisting away. Yeah.
Wow.
And do you see how you can see the little scoops in there?
There was a giant nub going across the middle.
Or was there a floor here? Were
Could
these
be a
tiles
floor,
for
yeah.
a floor?
Yeah.
That butted up against this wall, maybe.
And then look in the stone. There's those 2 blocks that are shoved into the stone. I mean, look, how weird is that?
That's incredible. I love this photo.
And you can see so many scoop marks there.
Yeah.
That is just amazing.
And you're telling me they shoved fat behind this giant rock? Come on.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I know at Cusco there are at Cusco and Sacsayhuaman there are examples where you can see the little red fat clay in there.
That's interesting.
But you actually, you know what?
And you can see that at the top there, you see the stylistic similarities in these like tapered alcoves. So in that, what was it, the hotel wall you showed us, they have the same.
Yep.
They're these trapezoids or whatever, very similar. And it does look like a later, or I don't know if I could say later, but it does look like a slightly different style. Look at all that llama fat, Luke. $20.
Giant angry llama fat.
So yeah, it was just this right here was just mind blowing, and what was even more amazing was that I was just standing on top of the mountain at Machu Picchu and thinking like the fact that there is something up here that rivals what you see in Egypt on top of this giant mountain. And there's, they say that these blocks were quarried, basically where they stand, and you can see granite quarries at Machu Picchu, but still, I mean, they had to pull these from where the granite quarry is, 100 yards away and get these here and then cut them so precisely. It's amazing. 60% of the architecture at Machu Picchu is under the ground.
Wow.
What?
60% of it is underground. Yep, they actually just unearthed a new megalith at Machu Picchu today. When I was there, there was a tent there, and they were saying the official story was that they were I don't even know, they were digging because they're always worried about like the next earthquake is going to split the mountain in half, and like both sides of the city are just going to fall off the mountain. And Dr. Barnhart and I are like, well, the city has been there for a very long time.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's
whoever
gonna fall.
built it certainly knew what they were doing and how to build architecture that could, sustain earthquakes. So, but anyways, they ended up finding they ended up exhuming more these giant megalithic stones from the center little plaza at Machu Picchu, and that just happened today.
Wow.
So yeah, just absolutely mind-boggling that they were able to do this. Another example that I'd like to show you guys of the monumental stonework that's here is, let's go. So I sent you guys this.
Look at this.
So this is really interesting, and anyone here who's going to go to Machu Picchu, you try to find this little alley. I don't know how to explain it. When you get to the far end of Machu Picchu, at the bottom of Huayna Picchu, you will see this. You'll see this recreation of what an Inca-style home would have looked like. This little alleyway is right next to that. So as I walk through this alleyway, you can see these. You can see this stone wall that's here to the left, and you can see another one up on top of this staircase to the right. Those cuts in that stone, we sat there and looked at that for a good long while. And
Up here?
right there, and then to the left as well. Yes, right there. So those cuts through the stone, Dr. Barnhart's been here, I don't know how many times over the last 30 years or so. And he thinks, and there's some other archaeologists there that think, and this is kind of an out there idea, but that the Inca or whoever, because there's also there's a culture. I even asked the archaeologist there. They said that there was a culture living at Machu Picchu before the Inca ever arrived, at least dating back to 700 BC. So,
Wow.
anyways, what Dr. Barnhart's idea is that these stones right here have these artificial, pretty obvious when you're there, and then you look at other stones that are all around Machu Picchu. None of them quite look like this, and it's like you're walking through this alleyway where these stones go. So this stone right here on the right, you see how there's no deep divots in it and cuts in it. Yeah. There's nothing like that. And so the stones that are standing next to me as I'm taking this photo to my right and left, they're all basically untouched. They just look like, a regular I think these might be granite, but they just look like regular stone outcroppings. And as you go forward, they get more and more cuts in them. And as you
This is mountain rock, right? This is gonna
Yes,
be
it
it's
is.
gonna be granite of some kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and as you keep walking through this little alleyway, these cuts get more defined, and then all of a sudden they turn into let me see if I can go.
You want to?
Yeah. It's right or left of here. So, and then the outcropping turns into this style of stone before you know it. You almost have to like look really closely. But those boulders fade into these blocks, and then these blocks eventually turn into the stone walls of Machu Picchu. And so the idea, at least what Dr. Barnhart interprets, is that they are showing that Machu Picchu is like a gift from the gods, or the gift from the earth, and that
from the living rock.
yeah, and that the city is like born out of the mountain,
Yeah.
and that it's
Dude.
literally coming from the mountain. It's something that can really only be conveyed in person. As you're walking through it, it's very obvious that that's where they're doing it. It's like boulders that get these cuts that go through them, and then the cuts turn into the blocks, and then the blocks turn into the cellular style walls, and all of a sudden you're in the city. And it's really amazing. It's like a piece
cool.
of public art, It's really, really cool. And so another thing about what you're looking at right here is this is cellular polygonal stonemasonry. So there's so many different types. So I was showing you guys, there's the imperial style, which is the square granite stone blocks that you see all throughout Cusco. A step up from that is cellular polygonal, which is what we'll see at the Temple of the Moon. That's the 12-sided stone. That's the one that's like the most impressive. So that's cellular polygonal. But then you have megalithic polygonal, which is at Sacsayhuaman with the gigantic 20-foot tall stones that weigh as much as like 3 or 4, jets. And then from there, you also have cellular, which is to the top right of here. It's that, but on a smaller scale. And then you have polygonal cellular, which is like this. And then you've got, I think it's called Hananpacha.
Yep. Hananpacha,
which is like
rock cut.
Yeah, which is your rock cut. And then you've got, you've basically got your rubble and mortar.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing that the diversity of stonework here is, it's just Henry. I just haven't ever really been anywhere where there's so many different types of stonemasonry. It's just,
so does that
mind-blowing.
strike you as like different cultures possibly, or do you think that it could be just different artisans or whatever, like different styles?
Yeah,
I mean, you've been all through, Central America, looking at pyramids and cities and everything, and the stone types there, limestone.
Yeah, they don't,
and it's all sort of done the same way.
Yeah,
right?
In Mesoamerica, there's really no doubt who built the pyramids out there, because you look in the Maya world, it's all that gray limestone, and they're all, most of the blocks are close to the same size. I mean, they do erect these gigantic stelae.
Yeah, and the statues.
Yeah, but it's all so similar, and there's really no question that it's all one.
And this
culture.
is over thousands of years, right? Thousands
in the
of
Maya
years
world,
of construction.
Yeah. At least 2,500 years. Of continuous construction, and so
that's what's odd about this.
Inca were around for like 150.
So they had 3 different distinct styles that they. It's like, why would they choose?
Maybe a little longer than that. I can't remember how.
Yeah. So, so the Inca Empire itself is, it reigns for about 150 years, but then you have the Kingdom of Cusco, which was around before that. Now, here's the thing about South America is that